So the Russians are doing it again. They're making up yet another captured city that was not actually captured. I'll tell you all about that. Let me start in a different place, though. Let's talk about what happened last night. There were 495 drones or missiles that rained down on Ukraine last night. This is Putin's wrath for what happened with Kupyansk recently. And if we look at I put into AI, I said list the largest 25 overnight drone and missile attacks on Ukraine by number of drones and the date. And so if we see down here for our date, we're at about 12th with more than 450 drones and 30 missiles. And it's actually higher than that number of drones. It's greater than 450. So we're at about 12th. But look at these dates. All these dates are 2025, all the way down through the top 25. It's all 2025, 2025, 2025. That's how the war has been progressing over time. This is a picture of Odesa. Blackout in Odesa, Russia launches its largest strike on the region's energy infrastructure. Odesa was plunged into complete blackout overnight as Russia carried out its most massive attack on the region's energy system since 2022. Around 10 electrical substations and thermal power plant were damaged. 4 people were injured. This is Odesa. This is what Russia's doing to Ukraine after Ukraine took back some land. Okay, these are the people in Odesa waiting for water. Most of Odesa is without water, heating, and electricity after a massive Russian attack on a city. People line up at public water taps. Bottled water in stores is running out due to increased demand. And of course, this is some great commentary. Of course, the great Russian army, in retaliation for its defeat in Kupyansk, heroically spent the entire night raining missiles on Odesa, leaving a city of 1 million people completely without electricity and heating in the middle of winter. Unable to defeat the Ukrainian military on the battlefield, they wage war against Ukrainian children in the dark, freezing apartments. That's disproportionately what's happening. When they rain missiles on cities, it's disproportionately women and children. Ukraine's southern energy grid came under attack from over 450 drones and 30 missiles overnight, December 13th, leaving thousands without power across 7 oblasts, said Zelensky. And here we see this morning in Mykolaiv in the region, damaging 5 private homes, critical infrastructure. According to authorities, 5 people were injured. Also, the city's electric transport network was also damaged. Again, this is what Russia does to Ukrainians every night. Okay, and then this is the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. People were telling me in the comments, I say Zaporizhia instead of Zaporizhia. One person even commented, you're not a professor, you're a professor. Okay, I got it. I appreciate the help. Zaporizhia, I said it again. Zaporizhia nuclear power plant was again left without power overnight for the 12th time. The plant likely lost all external electrical supply, the IAEA said. Such a blackout is a game of Russian roulette. So far, luck has held. Okay, let's look at this. Again, what happened last night, 1,300 Russians off the battlefield. I don't have the actual chart, but here we have it from Ragnar Gudnadsson's dashboard, 1,300. So engagement slightly above the 7-day average. Okay, so 1,300 today or last night, night before 1,400, night before that higher than 1,400. So that's where we've been. And the average is about 1030 something. Russia deploys additional reserves to Pokrovsk as Ukrainian forces hold the defense of the agglomeration. Commander-in-Chief Siversk says on 10 December, Ukraine's East grouping repelled a mechanized Russian assault near Pokrovsk. And this accounts partly for some of the higher numbers. This was on Wednesday, so that would have been Thursday's higher numbers. Russian forces launched a daytime motorized assault on the main highway in Pokrovsk. Just seems like a fool's errand given the drones. Here's some footage of Ukrainian M270 MLRS dropping airburst fused M31 Gimler's rockets on Russian motorized column outside of Pokrovsk on Wednesday. Ukrainian artillery forces created a dense kill box, firing a variety of munitions on the Russian advance. And again, now today in the Pokrovsk direction, invaders conducted 37 assaults, and it's still going on. This is an image of what Pokrovsk actually looks like right now. This was from Sputnik, first footage of liberated Pokrovsk, and they're like, yay, this is what we've liberated. You've liberated, you've destroyed. Pokrovsk was freed on December 1st. It was freed on December 1st? Really? Freed? This is what you mean by freeing. It was an anchor of Ukraine's Donbas fortification belt. Its loss became a disaster for Ukraine. Okay. And here is Solovyov in Pokrovsk. Here's what he has to say. Let's listen to this. Pokrovsk. Once again, the Russian name for the city, Pokrovsk, is ours. A city within the Russian Federation. It's been liberated by the courageous Red Army. Fighters from the Ukrainian Nazi filth. Details will be on the Sunday evening program on Russia 1 TV channel. So it's a little promo. And then we see him also doing this. Here is Comrades. Pokrovsk, the Russian name for Pokrovsk, is ours. Vladimir Solovyov sings a Russian anthem as he raises the banner on liberated Pokrovsk. This was from RT. And so here we are with this. This is how it is, and this is how it will always be. Glory to our free fatherland, he says. And you start singing. Comrades. Pokrovsk is ours, and they're raising a flag in what must be the most heavily guarded part of what Russia controls in Pokrovsk. Okay, so that's where they are, and the Russians are legitimately in Pokrovsk. They're fighting it there. Okay. Che Bao's posted this. We are advancing across almost all areas, Russian Armed Forces Chief Gerasimov says. Pokrovsk, Kupyansk, Volchansk, and the list of successes gets longer every time. Posted this on November 20th. This was Gerasimov giving that report to Putin about that. And then this guy here, he's actually like boldly stating that they have liberated Kupyansk, right? Okay, so he lied to Putin without even blinking. The fact that Russian troops were in the city did not mean that they were safe from Kyiv's forces on the western outskirts. And then Putin asks, is that it? Giving him a very pointed look. It's an insanely strong story. This is Colonel General Kuzov Lev. And here's what he's saying. In the Kupyansk direction, the assault squads of the 68th Motor Rifle Division and the 6th Army have completed the liberation of the city of Kupyansk. That is, everything's over? Yes, sir. The city is under our control. Individual small scattering of groups of the enemy are being destroyed. Yeah, okay. So he's telling Putin that they bagged the city. And then Putin is giving him an award on December 9th. Okay, so November 20th, he says it's completely under Russian control. On December 9th, Putin awards Kuzylev for capturing Kupyansk. And then on December 12th, President Zelensky sends greetings to Ukrainian soldiers from Kupyansk. Oops. So, yeah. Now, they haven't learned their lesson. Here, let's finish with Kupyansk first, and then we'll talk about the next one. The AFU has cleared almost all of Kupyansk. ISW says the Ukrainian advances in and near Kupyansk show that Ukrainian forces are capable of conducting successful counterattacks and making tactically significant gains, particularly where Russian forces are overstretched. The seizure of Kupyansk has been Russian priority since mid to late July of 2025. So they've been after it for about 4 or 5 months. Okay. So Russian forces have been unable to allocate sufficient forces in concentrations to overcome Ukrainian defenses in this area as they pursue intensive offensive operations elsewhere. Now, this is some interesting background about it. The Kupyansk operation was largely conceived, planned, and continues to be executed by one of Ukraine's most talented officers, the commander of the Joint Forces Grouping, legendary Major General Durapty. He has been conducting this operation without additional reserves. Like, he didn't have extra forces going after them. He did use drone forces exceedingly well. Relying solely on existing forces and assets against Russian troops that significantly outnumber Ukrainian forces in almost every component on the ground. Drapati was urgently redeployed to Kharkiv Oblast in May of 2024 to halt a Russian breakthrough from the Volchansk direction. Remember that? the task he successfully completed. He also commanded the liberation of Kherson Oblast in 2022. Notably, he once chose to resign following a tragic training ground incident, taking personal responsibility for the failure of his subordinates to carry out his soldiers. They didn't accept his resignation, but like that's the kind of responsibility that's going to cause them to actually do well and be successful, as opposed to, well, whatever else they've been doing. Right. He's a good guy. Okay, let's go on and look at this. Huliopol direction, Ukrainian soldiers repelled 16 enemy attacks. There was some talk of a little bit of a breakthrough yesterday, but it looks like that's not an issue right now. Okay, let's talk about the main headline today, and that is this. Claims from Russian military commanders on 11 December 2025, Russian ground forces have taken complete control of the Ukrainian town of Siversk. Okay, Siversk. Okay, now they're claiming that they have this town that they don't actually have. The day before, the Ukrainians actually liberate Kupyansk and show that, they just make up stuff. Donetsk is likely inaccurate. Russian ground forces are continuing to infiltrate Siversk, taking advantage of foggy conditions that have literally taken positions in the center of town. Ukrainian forces likely continue to contest western parts of the town. Siversk has long been an objective for Russian forces, which have mounted several failed assaults on the town. Siversk has screened the larger remaining Ukrainian-held Donetsk cities of Sloviansk and Kramatorsk. This follows other almost certainly inaccurate Russian claims that Russian ground forces have taken complete control of the Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk. Ukrainian forces likely continue to remain at a limited capacity to launch small-scale raids into the northern part of the city, contesting full Russian control and delaying Russian efforts at consolidation. Russian forces continue to sustain heavy casualties in intensive operations on the front line and have likely sustained approximately 395,000 casualties in 2025. 395,000 casualties in 2025. It's incredible. Okay, so Russia says it captured Siversk under Ukrainian forces, but Ukrainian forces and even some Russian bloggers disagree. According to the ISW, Moscow's claim is part of a larger disinformation campaign. While Russian troops may have entered parts of eastern Siversk, fighting continues across the town. So is Siversk is it captured? No, I don't think so. Kremlin is attempting to portray the claimed fall of Siversk as a start of the battle for Sloviansk, a battle the Kremlin has not set conditions on the ground to even begin. So here is Siversk 1 month ago. The Russians have made progress, and I'm going to show you that. So here it is today, a month ago today. But I would hardly say that this is surrounded and captured at this point. This is contested area. Right? We don't know exactly what this is. The Russians have gained this. This is all contested here. And this over here is all still held by Ukrainian. So it's not what they're claiming it is. And they don't seem to have learned their lesson. Konstantinivka, Donetsk region, what's left under ongoing Russian liberation, once again, inhabited city, now scarred by destruction. Just look at these images of what the Ruski Mir, the wonders that the Ruski Mir has brought to Ukraine. It's absolutely terrible, right? Okay, now there was a headline, and I saw it here, and I saw it in RT. RT was making it sound like they have to do this because they've been forced to do this, but I don't think so. I think it's just part of consolidation, which is why I'm explaining it here. Ukraine will disband international legions. Foreign fighters will be reassigned to Ukrainian assault units and serve at least through the end of 2025, General Staff says, according to BBC. This move integrates international volunteers into regular frontline formations as part of force restructuring. So they used to be grouped together. Now they're going to be added to different components of the military. But I don't think it's forced. I think they're just trying to make it more efficient. ISW continues to assess that Frontline in Ukraine is not facing imminent collapse. These officials have made exaggerated claims of advances in every meeting, and Russia ultranationalist mill bloggers have rejected many of these claims as inflated. Kremlin is attempting to use these claims to portray the Russian military victory as inevitable. That's what's driving most of what's going on. All right, this is just some images of the Ukrainians driving through their protected highways with netting to keep them from being hit from drones. So there we are. Okay, my shout out is to Gary Soden, undergraduate Patreon patron. And I will leave you with this. Darth Putin, we're advancing in Kupyansk backwards. We're advancing on Pokrovsk, which was surrounded months ago. I mean, it's a good point. If you're going to lie about something, like, you have to actually continue to lie about it, but I don't even understand the whole point of lying about it when it's demonstrably provable that that's not the reality. All right. And it's worse when it's demonstrably provable that it's not the reality. Thank you for the time, my friends. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person who cares about Ukraine.